Your Dad's a Monkey by Judy Corbalis, read by Nigel Planer. Chapter 1. Robert was a very ordinary boy. He lived with his mother and father in a perfectly ordinary house in an ordinary street opposite the park. Every morning his father put on his hat, picked up his umbrella from the hall, and went off to work. His mother put on an apron, got out the vacuum cleaner, and did the housework. And Robert put on his anorak, picked up his lunchbox, and went off to school. In the afternoon, when he got home, his mother would open the door and say, "Hello, dear. Did you have a nice day?" Then they would have tea and sometimes go shopping together, and later, when his father came back from work, they would all have supper and talk a bit. Then Robert would go to bed. Robert liked his life exactly the way it was. But one day, when he got home from school, his father opened the door and said, "You're home early, Robert?" "I always get home now," said Robert. "You're the one that's early." "Today is a very important day," said his father. "It's day one. This family has become stale and boring. From today, things are going to be different. We must get out of the rut we've sunk into." Robert came inside. "I like being in a rut," he said. "It's comfortable." "It's not good for you," said his father. "No challenge, no stimulation. It's unhealthy." "I'm quite healthy," said Robert. "So from now on," went on his father, taking no notice, "we are making changes." An uneasy feeling came over Robert, but he decided to ignore it. At breakfast next morning, Robert's father said, "We shall start our new exciting life straight away. From now on, you are to call us Albinia and George, not Mum and Dad." "I like calling you Mum and Dad," protested Robert. "All the other kids call their parents that." "Exactly," said his father. "Too ordinary." "George is old-fashioned," said Robert. "I'd feel silly calling you that." "George is a very good name," snapped his father. "And that's no way to speak to your father." "You just said we should have equality," said Robert. "Don't be cheeky," said George. "You're so argumentative, Robert." "I am not," said Robert indignantly. "There you go again," sighed his father. "Most boys would be pleased to be allowed to call their parents by their names." "But no one else does," protested Robert. "Be the first," said George. "Be a leader." "I am a leader," said Robert. "I'm captain of the football team." "Football?" said George. "What's football got to do with it? From now on, we are George and Albinia, and that's that. No more argument." "That's not equality," said Robert. "Equality's everyone having a say." "Will you be quiet?" cried George. "Or do you want a clip round the ear?" Robert glowered at his father. "Equality," he snorted under his breath. "Huh." They finished breakfast in silence. Then Robert watched George put on his hat and pick up his umbrella, and Albinia put on her apron and get out the vacuum cleaner, and he went off to school, feeling a bit more worried than he had yesterday. And the next morning, after breakfast, Albinia put on the bowler hat, kissed George and Robert, and went off to the office. George put on the apron and started on the housework, and Robert crept off to school feeling very worried indeed. Then, the morning after that, as Albinia was putting on the hat, George said, "Living in an ordinary house is not what this family needs. Yesterday, as I was peeling the potatoes, I had an absolutely original idea. We shall move out of our house and live in a tree house in the park." "There isn't a tree house in the park," said Robert. "So we shall build one," said George. "Build one?" said Robert. "But, Dad—" "Close your mouth," said George. "I can see the toast on your tonsils. It's no use arguing. My mind is made up. We shall start tomorrow." And they did. Chapter 2. "We won't need any furniture," said Albinia. "Well, hardly any. Just a few cushions and a low table and a washing-up bowl and a bath, of course. Robert was indignant. What about my bed? We'll sleep on the floor, said George. Much healthier. We haven't got a floor yet, said Robert. So Albinia went out and bought 3 hammocks, one for them and one for Robert and one for the clothing. She also bought a big beach umbrella. In case it rains, she explained. Robert felt very unhappy about leaving his nice, ordinary, waterproof house, and after he'd put some of his best things into a suitcase, he took his pocket money and went off gloomily to the hardware shop round the corner. When he got back, George and Albinia were putting things in a pile in the hall. Robert brought his suitcase downstairs. "What's in it?" asked George. "Meccano," said Robert, "and Lego, and my model planes, and some books, and my Action Man, and my radio car, and my walkie... "Robert," said George, "we are moving to live up a tree. We are pioneers, unusual, different, trailblazers. You are not taking all that rubbish with you." "It's not rubbish," cried Robert. "It's my luggage." "I don't think you realise," said George, more kindly, "that from now on you won't need all that. Who needs books when you can write your own poetry? Who needs Meccano when you can build your own models from the trees?" "I do," said Robert. "I don't want to live up a tree, and I hate woodwork." "When I was your age," began George. "Dear," said Albinia hastily, "I do think we should get started." George threw Robert a frosty look and went off to collect some blankets. "Mum," said Robert. "Albinia, dear," Robert sighed. "Albinia, please can't you get him to stop it? But this will be the adventure of a lifetime." "Can't he go and live in the tree on his own? You and I could stay here by ourselves." Albinia shot Robert a reproachful look. "I don't think that's very nice," she said. "Of course I want to live up a tree. It'll be terribly exciting, and you certainly can't stay here on your own, so you'll just have to make the best of it." "I'd like to murder them," thought Robert. "What'll the others say to me at school?" And aloud he said, "I don't want to live up a tree." "We heard you the first time," said George, coming back downstairs. "That's just too bad. Now, start helping Albinia and me to carry these things over to our new home." Chapter 3. In 2 hours, they had all their things under the largest tree in the park, and it was lunchtime. Albinia opened the sardines in the cake tin, and they sat under their new home to eat. During the meal, George and Albinia decided they should start building on the 4th branch from the ground. "Why?" asked Robert. "Because it's the longest," explained George. "And the prettiest," added Albinia. "There's a great big crack in it," said Robert. "The one above's better." So the 5th branch from the ground became their new home. All afternoon they hung clothing and towels from the tree, rigged up a rope ladder, and nailed up a small wooden platform for the tin bath. "How do we fill it?" asked Robert. "With a hose, of course," said George. "I'm going to run one from that park tap over there." "That's only a cold water tap," said Robert. "We'll have cold water baths," said George. "It's much healthier, and besides, living outdoors all the time, we won't feel the cold." Robert was outraged. "I'm going to go back and take baths in the old house," he announced loudly. "You can't, dear," said Albinia. "I've switched the boiler off." Robert kicked viciously at a tin can that was lying nearby. "Don't do that," said Albinia. "Put it in the rubbish bin." "I didn't drop it," said Robert. "Don't answer back," said George. "Do as you're told." George was not feeling well. He was not used to sardines and cake for lunch, and his stomach hurt. He wished Albinia had been able to make a healthy salad, but she'd been too busy. "Get along now, Robert," he said crossly. "Hurry up!" Robert pulled a face behind George's back. "He's mad," he muttered to himself, as he kicked the can towards the bin. "They're both mad. My parents have gone bonkers." "Pick that can up this minute!" boomed a loud voice. Robert looked up, startled. The park keeper was striding towards him. "I'm kicking it over to the litter bin," he explained. "It's not my can either. Someone else dropped it." "Oh, yes," said the park keeper, "and you're just kicking it along out of the goodness of your heart?" "That's right," said Robert. "Don't you give me lip," said the keeper threateningly. "I've got enough on my plate with that lot over there." And he pointed at George and Albinia's tree. "Littering up the park with buckets and hammocks and whatnot. It's a disgrace. Nailed up a platform they have. Look at it. A bath up a tree. I asked you, they must be raving mad." Robert put the can in the rubbish bin. "They'll be taking it down as soon as I get hold of them," went on the park keeper, straightening his jacket and cap. Robert brightened. "Will they?" "They certainly will," promised the park keeper. "The cheek of it, moving in to live in one of my trees." "Well, what if they won't go?" asked Robert. "Have to, won't they?" said the park keeper. "It's against regulations." Robert thought quickly. "I have to be off now," he said. "Bye." "Bye," said the keeper. "Watch your litter." Robert slipped off behind some bushes where he could watch what was going on without being seen. The park keeper strode up to the tree. "Oi! You there!" George's face appeared through the leaves. "Yes?" "What do you mean by squatting up my tree? You're breaking regulations, you are," called the park keeper. "Nonsense," said George. "This is a free country, and I can live wherever I choose." "Not in my park, you can't," shouted the park keeper. "You leave right now and take all that rubbish with you." "That rubbish is my furniture," said George, "and I have no intention of moving any of it, or of leaving my new home." "You come on down here this minute," bellowed the keeper. "I'm getting the law on you." George was unmoved. "Did you hear me?" yelled the keeper. "My good man," said George kindly, "I have no idea why you should feel so upset." "No idea?" spluttered the keeper. "I like that. Living up one of my trees like some orangutan, and he says he's got no idea why I should feel upset. It's against the law what you're doing." "It most certainly is not," said George. "I've checked the bylaws thoroughly, and I'm perfectly within my legal rights to live up any tree I choose." "You've got to be crazy to choose to live up a tree in the first place," shouted the park keeper. "A lunatic, that's what you are. Deranged." George looked pityingly down at him. "We are pioneers of New Age life, living back to nature side by side with art. In a very short time, every tree in this park will be colonized by families who have followed our lead." Albinia poked her head through the leaves. "I'm amazed they let him loose," said the keeper. "Are you his minder, then?" Albinia looked upset. "You take him off out of here and all his hammocks and buckets and whatnots," said the keeper. "Right away. And that's an order." And he strode furiously away, muttering. Behind the bushes, Robert grinned to himself. "What a horrible man," said Albinia. "We have to expect it, I'm afraid," said George. "The man's a Philistine, no feeling for the real life at all." "Can he force us to leave?" asked Albinia. "Not at all," said George. "There's nothing in the bylaws to stop us. We're perfectly legally entitled to be here. This is my new home, and here I intend to stay." Behind the bushes, Robert's heart sank. Chapter 4. By evening, Robert, George, and Albinia had stretched out the hammocks and hauled up the bath, and everything they'd brought with them was up the tree. Robert had hung a bucket on the end of a long rope so they could pull up their milk and lettuce. Supper had been fish and chips, which had made him feel better, but had upset George even more. "We're supposed to be healthy and living back to nature," he complained. "I can't make supper out of nothing," said Albinia, "unless you want to eat grass." Then, after supper, George and Albinia announced that it was Robert's bedtime. "But it's only 7:30, protested Robert. "My bedtime's 8:30. "Not any more," said Albania. "Not now we're living out of doors." "You'll be up with the sun at dawn," said George, "just like the rest of nature's creatures." "But I want to watch TV. It's my programme," wailed Robert. "TV?" George was appalled. "What are you talking about? We don't need TV anymore. We are outdoors. Above us, the velvet sky. Around us, the sleeping birds and the little night animals skipping from their homes to start their day." Robert was deeply embarrassed to hear his father talking like this, but Albania seemed to like it. "Oh, that's beautiful, George," she whispered, and took hold of his father's arm in a way that made Robert feel like being sick. "Yuck," he said very loudly. His parents looked at him. "Go to bed now," ordered George, and Robert slunk off to his hammock, feeling miserable and wronged. He lay in the dark for what seemed like a very long time. It was chilly and rather damp, and there was a cold draught round his ears. The hammock wasn't very comfortable either, and when he turned over there wasn't much room at the edges. Robert thought about his old bed that he'd been sleeping in just yesterday. It was warm and comfortable, and the room was nice too. He had posters on the walls, and models on his bookshelf, and his computer was... His thoughts were interrupted by the sounds of George and Albania going to bed. He heard them getting into their hammock. "Tomorrow," said George, "we begin to build our new home." "Isn't that exciting?" said Albania. "No," called Robert from his hammock. "I liked the old home best." Albania and George ignored this. George inhaled deeply. "Oh," he breathed. "Smell those glorious leaves." "A little one dropped gently on my face," murmured Albania. "That's rain," said Robert. "It's just started." "Rain?" cried his parents, sitting bolt upright. Zip, snap, twist. Over and over went their hammock, tangling the two of them tightly in its strings. Robert heaved a sigh. He carefully rolled out of his own hammock, undid his emergency kit, and pulled out a large square of plastic. Then he climbed up several branches higher and tied each end of the plastic securely to the branches of the tree. George and Albania were struggling to untangle themselves, but they were so knotted up it was impossible. Robert pushed aside the rope ladder, slid down the trunk to the next branch, crawled along it till he was below their hammock, and then gave it an enormous shove and spun them back in the opposite direction. They both flew out of the hammock, dropped through the branches, and bumped onto the ground. "Oh!" screeched George. Albania felt herself for broken bones. "Are you all right?" cried George. "I think so," said Albania, "but I'm a bit sore. Are you hurt?" "I've wrenched my arm," said George, annoyed. "That damned hammock! I'm covered in muck and rubbish." From above them, they heard Robert's voice floating down. "It's all right," he said. "It's just good natural earth." And as he heard them scrambling up the trunk, he climbed back into his own hammock and pulled his pillow over his head and went to sleep. Chapter 5. Next day was Sunday. George and Albania were still asleep when Robert woke up. For a minute he couldn't think where he was, and then he remembered, and his heart sank. He peered through the branches. It had stopped raining, but was still very muddy underfoot. He got out of the hammock carefully, stood in the bath and put his clothes on. Then he quickly opened the cake tin, fished out the last piece of cake, and drank the rest of the milk. The sun was quite high in the sky, although it wasn't very bright, and there seemed to be rather a lot of people wandering and strolling in the park already. What if someone recognized him? What was he going to tell them at school? Well, today was Sunday, so he had a whole day to think about it. Sunday. Robert started. That was the day Grandmother Williams came to lunch. Every Sunday she arrived at 11, ready to eat at midday. He had a feeling she wouldn't be too pleased with sardines for lunch, and he'd eaten all the cake. Maybe she wouldn't come now that they were living up the tree. She might not know where to find them. He looked over towards the old house and saw her standing at the gate talking to Mr. Dix, their next-door neighbour. Mr. Dix was pointing at the tree. Even from this distance, Grandmother Williams didn't look too pleased. Robert climbed up 2 more branches to get a better view. Grandmother Williams came marching across the park, clutching her umbrella and her carpet bag. He decided to stay where he was. She appeared under the tree. "George!" she shouted. There was silence. Then, from the 5th branch came the sound of a groan. Robert's father peered through the branches. Mud and bits of leaf and twig were still stuck to his hair. "Come down here at once!" thundered Grandmother Williams. Albinia and George scrambled down. They looked dreadfully muddy and tired. Grandmother Williams was short and fat and furious. She brandished her umbrella angrily at George. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "I've never heard such nonsense and goings-on in all my life. A grown-up man and his wife and child living up a tree like apes. I am not having it. I refuse to visit my only daughter's family up a tree." "We're living back to nature," explained George. "Back to nature?" Grandmother Williams was scornful. "Back to front, more like. I always thought you had your head on backwards, George Parker, and now I know for sure." Albinia put a timid hand on her mother's sleeve. "Mother," she said gently. Robert poked his head out of the branches. "Ivy," he said. "You have to call her Ivy now. You're not allowed to call her mother any more. George said." "I'll Ivy you," said his grandmother. "Just get yourself down here this minute, young man." Robert slid hastily down the trunk, tearing his trousers on the way. "I do not intend to have Sunday lunch with my only daughter's family in a public park," said Grandmother Williams. "Robert, you're a very naughty boy. You must have had a hand in this. Fancy persuading your family to live up a tree." She turned to George and Albinia. "You should have known better. I'm astounded at you." "Me?" said Robert indignantly. "I don't want to live up a tree. It wasn't my idea." "It was mine," said George. "This family was boring and uninteresting. It was time for a change." "When this family decides to come to its senses and live in a house again, let me know," snapped Grandmother Williams. "In the meantime, I shall not be visiting you." She glowered at George and Albinia. "You're utterly irresponsible allowing Robert to persuade you into this," she said crossly, and before they had time to answer, she turned and strode away out of the park. Chapter 6. Albinia was upset. "I've never seen Mother like that," she said. "You have to call her Ivy," said Robert. "Be quiet, Robert," said George. "But you said—" began Robert. "I know what I said," said George crabbily. "Just shut up for a minute." He put his arm round Albinia. "She'll get used to the idea," he said. "She'll be proud to be related to us when she sees how original and interesting we are." "We'd better get started then," said Robert. George reached out to clip Robert's ear, but Robert was too quick for him. Albinia continued to look doubtful. "Let's have a cup of tea," suggested George. "There's no milk," said Robert. "It's all right," said Albinia. "I left a note for the milkman, and I can see the milk float over there now." "Did you ask him to deliver it to the tree?" said George. "Of course," said Albinia, and they climbed back up the trunk to put the water on to boil on the camping stove. "Hello!" shouted a voice from below. There stood the milkman, holding the note and peering up into the branches. "Over here!" shouted George. "Same as usual. 3 pints of milk, 2 yoghurts, and an orange juice, please." "Oh, sorry, Gov," said the milkman. "Can't do it. No rules about having to deliver up trees, I'm afraid." "But it's simple," explained Albinia. "You just put the order into that bucket there, and we pull up the rope." "Oh, too dangerous," said the milkman. "Suppose a bottle fell out and smashed on someone's head, what then, "We'll be careful," said Albinia. "Can't do it, love," said the milkman. The company'd hold me responsible if anything happened. You'll have to buy it at the corner shop. Sorry." And he went away, whistling. "Just pop down to the shop and get 2 pints, will you?" said George to Robert. "I don't want to," said Robert. "The exercise is good for you," said George. "Why don't you go, then?" asked Robert. "Don't be rude," said George, "and arrange for the shop to deliver a newspaper as well, please." "I'm not rude," said Robert. "I just don't want to go." But he slid down the trunk and stumped off to the shop.
"Morning, Robert,"
said the shopman. "Morning," mumbled Robert. 3 pints of milk, please."
"Here you are,"
said the shopman, putting them on the counter. "And I've come about the paper," went on Robert.
"Oh, take it with you," said the shopman. "Delivery girl's late this morning."
"It's about the delivery," said Robert, going pink. My dad, he—"
"Yes?"
said the shopman.
"What is it?"
"We've moved," said Robert desperately, "so we need the paper at our new place." The door at the back of the shop opened, and a girl of Robert's age appeared in the doorway.
"Can I have a Mars bar, Dad?"
She noticed Robert.
"Hi, Robert."
Robert went bright red.
"Robert's moved," said her father. "Didn't know your parents were planning a change of house. Your mother was in here last week, but she never mentioned it."
"We just moved yesterday," said Robert. "We went suddenly."
"What's the new address, then?" said the shopman. "I'll put it in the delivery book."
He lifted down a big black book from the shelf. Robert went an even brighter red. It's A woman came into the shop behind him.
"Hurry up now," said the shopman. "I haven't got all day."
We've moved to live up a tree," blurted out Robert. "And Dad, he wants you to deliver our paper up the tree from now on. It's the big one with the platform, and there's a bucket on a rope underneath to put the paper in." The girl began to giggle.
"Deliver your paper up a tree?" said the shopman. "Are you trying to be smart with me, Robert?"
"No," said Robert, looking at his feet. "I'm not, honestly. It's true. We do live up a tree now."
"Oh, stop all that nonsense this minute," said the shopman angrily. "Take your milk and get along."
Robert raced out of the shop, red and angry. "You can go yourself and explain," he shouted as he climbed up the ladder. "I'm not going again. And his girl's in my class at school. She'll tell everyone tomorrow."
"And they'll all think you're very lucky,"
soothed Albania. Said Robert. "That's all you know." End of side 1.